Thank you all so much for joining us today, taking time out of your busy schedules for our Bridgeway and Berwyn Group partnership webinar here. My name is Jack Hartwig, marketing manager over at the Berwyn Group, and we're really excited to come together as a partnership team here and talk to you a little bit about what's happening in the industry with us. So we'll get into some introductions here of our panel today. We'll talk a little bit about the current industry landscape and give an overview of the services that are entering the Bridgeway platform. We'll talk to the why behind this partnership, what this means for existing and new clients, and next steps, look into the future and all that fun stuff, followed by a Q&A. Our panel today made up of Lindsay Tate McDonald, our Director of Project Revenue over at the Berwyn Group, Jeff Herman, Executive Vice President of Bridgeway, and John Mendoza, Solutions Engineer at Bridgeway. So Lindsay, I'll pass things over to you if you want to introduce yourself.
Great, thanks Jack. So again, my name is Lindsay Tate McDonald. I'm the Director of our Project Revenue here at the Berwyn Group. I've been here for about 9 years and have had a lot of experience in all different departments and definitely extensive work with a lot of our products that we offer today. So that will be a lot of what I plan on speaking about today, is kind of why we have the products that we have and what they're used for, and how they fit in with some services that we can offer to you guys. I'll kick it over to John.
Thank you so much. My name is John Mendoza. I'm a solution engineer here at Bridgeway. I have 17 years of Taft-Hartley experience. Most recently, I was a project manager in our PSO division, so I was helping teams with any kind of pension, annuity, 401k projects and implementations. But now I'm here on the solution engineer working with Jeff's team. So, Jeff?
Yeah, thanks, John and Lindsay. I appreciate it. My name is Jeff Herman. I'm Executive Vice President here at Bridgeway. I oversee our client strategy, product strategy, and partnership strategy here with the firm. I began my career in the Taft-Hartley technology space about 20 years ago, working with pension and health administrators across the US and Canada. If you're not familiar with Bridgeway, Bridgeway has been providing technology solutions primarily in the multi-employer Taft-Hartley, but also in single employer TPA and municipal space for over 40 years. We are the providers of both the BASIS and the ISSI benefit administration platforms, and we deliver both of those to nearly 400 installations around North America. There are over 2,000 benefit plans that are being administered on our platforms, and we're thrilled about the partnership with the Berwyn Group. We've obviously been working with the Berwyn Group for a number of years, but this new partnership really enables us to bring a really rich set of capabilities and integrations not seen previously through our relationship. So we're excited to be here today, and we thank the Berwyn Group for setting this up. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Lindsay.
Great, thanks Jeff. So today we're going to be focusing on two products that will be available through the Berwyn and Bridgeway relationship, which is CertiDeath and CertiCensus. First up, we're going to be talking about CertiDeath. And Jack, you can go to the next slide, which is Berwyn's premier death audit service. Before we talk about why we created CertiDeath and how it's different from all other death audit services that are on the marketplace today, let's take a quick step back and talk about why it's so challenging to identify deaths currently. So you may have heard articles in the past referring to kind of the demise of the death master file. In 2011, there were changes in legislature made by Congress which affected the death master file and removed 4.2 million state death records. The reason for these changes were primarily due to privacy concerns surrounding sensitive death information. The death master file prior to 2011 was close to a complete death data source that we had. Currently, there are now two versions of this death master file. There's the full DMF, and then there's the limited death master file. The limited DMF is a restricted version of the full death master file and is publicly available and accessible only to certified entities such as the Berwyn Group, and requires them to demonstrate a legitimate need to access that data. So let's talk about kind of the sources that funnel through the DMF. So both the full and the limited DMF have a lot of third-party sources that are funneled through there. So third-party sources can be things like family members, hospital, funeral homes, financial institutes, post offices. So those types of things that are reporting death information straight to the SSA. The full DMF includes all those third-party sources, but then has all the state death reported information that funnels in. And that's really what kind of takes the limited to the full with having the complete set of death data. So let's just talk about an example really quick so that we all kind of really understand. So if a third-party source, like we talked about, a family member, hospital, something like that, reports the death of an individual that passed away in the state of New York, and they report that death directly to the SSA, the death will be reported within the limited death master file, which is available to, how I mentioned before, certified recipients like the Berwyn Group. However, if the state of New York itself also reports that death to the SSA will omit that death information from the limited DMF, even though that third-party source also reported it. So who can access this DMF or the full DMF? So the SSA shares the full death data with certain agencies that pay federal funded benefits for the purposes of assuring the accuracy of those payments. Some of these agencies include Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, Department of Defense, Department of Veterans Affairs, the IRS, Railroad Retirement Board, so entities like that get it. The death information provided in the limited DMF continues to go down every single year, as we can see on this chart, since 2011, and we're currently only receiving about 16% of all deaths that we report through the limited DMF. There are no plans on restoring the limited DMF back to its full DMF prior state to 2011. And we expect that percentage of deaths that we continue to get through that limited DMF to just continue to decline year over year. So Jack, we can go to the next slide. So let's talk about what we did to try to fill the gap. So really, with the changes of 2011, Berwyn had to start looking for other ways to fill in this missing information, since we no longer had all the full state death data. So we were still able to purchase some state information, but some states are considered to be closed states, meaning they're not going to sell their information to anybody. Also, each state's cadence of reporting deaths vary. Some states report death information and provide that to us on a weekly basis. Some aren't on, some are on like more of a monthly, quarterly, and even annual basis. So it's really inconsistent when we do get that death information from states. And you can see it currently makes up about 17% of the deaths that we report are coming from state resources. The other, which is really the main source of information, is obituaries. So you can see on this graph, about 67% of all deaths that we report out are coming from an obituary source. But obituaries come with their own set of challenges too. So unlike state and SSA data that is matching up on a unique identifier, which is a social security number, obituaries don't contain a social security number. So we really rely on other data points, such as the names, the dates of birth, the locations, to pull that information out and match them to participants. So there's some main challenges with some obituaries. So there's no editorial standard to writing an obituary, right? A lot of times obituaries are coming from family members, friends. There's not a book on how to write a proper obituary. So oftentimes names are different, usually through marriages, divorce. Sometimes people put nicknames in there. Sometimes middle names can be used as instead of their legal first name. Obituary locations. So again, there's no set rule that says where an obituary has to be published. So sometimes it's where a person lived. Sometimes it's where a person grew up. Obituaries may or may not include a date of birth. Sometimes just an age is listed. Sometimes our clients have bad data, right? They might not know a date of birth, so making that connection can sometimes be challenging. And obituaries don't live on forever, right? So funeral homes often publish or post obituaries, but they'll take those down after a certain period of time. It's pretty common after 3-6 months of somebody passing away that funeral home will no longer have their obituary up and available on their website. So that information gets lost, right? As soon as it's coming off online, you may not find that information again. And then at times there can be multiple obituaries for the same person. And sometimes that information is conflicting between the two obituaries. So let's go on to our next slide and we'll talk about how CertiDeath kind of handles these challenges and what it really does. So CertiDeath identifies 96.5% of all decedents using over 26,000 data sources, proprietary algorithms, and our own human expertise. So on average, CertiDeath finds about 38% more deaths than any other death matching service that's available in the industry currently. So what you typically find with another death audit service provider is usually just death hits. So typically sorted by a category code or a high, medium, and low probability matching logic. So what do I mean by a death hit? A death hit is comparing your data with death audits or death data sources, such as the SSA, which is the limited death master file, state data, obituaries, and providing back information if your data was matched on one or more of those data points. So let's kind of talk about an example. So an example would be that you can have an exact match from a state or an SSA reported death that matches on name, date of birth, and social security number exactly. That would be really great, really easy to look at, seeing your data, their data, and match exactly, no problem. Go ahead and feel really confident that that belongs to your participant. But more oftentimes than not, it's actually much more challenging than that. And what's actually reported to you is partial matches of your data against other death audit sources or death data sources, sorry. So the name, the date of birth match, but not the SSN, or the SSN and the date of birth and the last name matches, but not the first name. So you get all these different variations, and it's really up to you to have to comb through all of those results and those possible matches and determine if it belongs to your participant or not. Oftentimes what we see with our clients is they don't have the ability to correct if they have bad data or pull in additional data that may help them make that determination if we had a possible obituary match. So again, like I mentioned before, obituaries come with their own challenges, which we identified and we talked about. And oftentimes our clients don't have current locations for their participants, which is kind of the key source of using obituary data. We've mentioned that oftentimes just an age instead of a date of birth can be an obituary. The legal name, what you have on file versus what's listed in the obituary are different. All of these different factors and what we have to go to try to comb through this information and try to provide you matches. So here at Berwyn, we're equipped to handle this missing data and bad data. We have large amounts of resources that allow us to see complete address histories of participants. So we can make those determinations if they did live somewhere other than the last known address that you had for them. We can make those connections. There's also oftentimes relative information in obituaries, right? Not oftentimes, or not all the times, our clients have all the relative information, but we have access to that kind of data. We can look through relatives that match to the participants based off their social security numbers and what's listed in an obituary and see all the connections there. We also have algorithms to manage name changes, like I mentioned before, nicknames, using middle names instead of their legal first name, all these different variations. We have tools to pick out those and make those connections. And then we also have a team of experts that review these obituaries on a daily basis. Again, I mentioned able to pull in additional data to help make those connections. And what we provide back to you as a client is validated deaths. So it's not death data, like I mentioned before, where you have to comb through and determine if this information is a match or not. We are telling you the answer, and we are telling you that it matches. We have a 99% accuracy rate in what we provide to you. So you can feel really confident that if you receive a reported death from us, that belongs to your participant. So CertiDeath is really the only solution that provides validated results to prevent your fund from making overpayments. Again, we have the last part, the reporting. So deaths are reported on a weekly basis through our web-based portal, which you have access to 24/7. There's also abilities to pull in to create custom reports. You can also customize the way that you send us data and that you want to receive data if you need custom headers. things like that. So we can definitely make adjustments and customize it to your needs. All right, so let's talk about CertiCensus. So CertiCensus is your full pension plan management tool. So CertiCensus not only comes with CertiDeath, which we just talked about extensively, but it also takes it up a notch by maintaining current address information for your participants, identifying beneficiaries once a participant passes away, and also helps send a required mailing per year. Oftentimes that's an annual funding notice for most of our clients. There's extensive reporting that's available on a per participant or for your whole population level, which you can use if you're ever in an audit type situation. And similar to CertiDeath results, for any new information is reported to you on a weekly basis, again through our web-based portal, which you have 24/7 access to view. And so our next slide, we're going to go a little bit deeper into each individual aspect of CertiCensus. So it all starts with a participant data file. Information that we ask for to utilize this service is name, social security number, date of birth, and the last known address that you have on file. So once we receive that information, it gets straight put into our death audit monitoring process, which I mentioned was the CertiDeath audit. So that's something that's run continuously on a weekly basis. You'll get reports like I mentioned every week if we have any new death information to report to you. If one of your participants does pass away, you are able to utilize our beneficiary search tools. So this is a very extensive relative search where we go and pull up to, I think our max number is now 13 relatives. 80% chance that we provide spousal information. And so when we talk about spousal information, we can let you know things that if we think they were married at the time of death or not. If they were married, is that spouse still living? Or if they're deceased, if that spouse is deceased, we provide the date of death. We also provide all the current addresses, information, phone numbers, dates of birth for those relatives. So not only the spouse, but we also provide first-degree relatives, and 95% of the time we always provide at least one first-degree relative. Again, giving you all that address information, dates of birth, phone number, everything that you need to make communication and outreach to that beneficiary in case there was some sort of benefit that may be due to them. The address verification, so this is for locating participants and keeping their address information up to date. So on average, we find about 33% of all of our participants' data has incorrect address information when they first start utilizing CertiCensus. Addresses are something that are changing on a regular basis. So according to census data, about 9% of the US population move within every single year. Historically, participants were receiving paper checks in the mail, and so having outdated address information was really less of a concern for our clients, because if somebody was going to move and they were getting a paper check, you best believe they were probably going to call you and let you know their new address so they can continue to receive their monthly benefits. But now that we have benefits are getting paid through direct or electronic deposit, really those participants making communication to their previous employer or plan or fund it's not happening like it used to, right? So it's really easy for our clients to get outdated address information very quickly on their population. So on a quarterly basis, Berwyn will monitor your participants' addresses. We compare the client submitted address to what is showing as the most current through our Berwyn resources. If the address that the client provided and what we are showing matches, we feel that confident that that participant still lives at that location and can continue sending any communication that you need to. However, if there's a discrepancy with what the client provided an address and what we are showing as their current address, then we actually put those participants through a more enhanced locate search. And so that enhanced locate search is conducted eligible once per year for each participant. And again, we will put them through that enhanced locate search if we suspect if there's a chance that participant has moved based on those results of those quarterly address verification checks. So the enhanced locate search includes a series of outbound letters sent to the participants asking them to either confirm or update their address. The letters that are used for these outbound communications is created by the client so that they are comfortable with the communication that is sent out to each participant. And then those participants have multiple ways to communicate back to the Berwyn Group to confirm or update their address. So we have a full-time call center. They can call anytime and speak to a live representative. They can mail back the bottom portion of the letter. So we provide an envelope for them to mail back. They can cut off the portion where they're updating it, or they confirm that the address is correct that we mailed to. Or we have an online portal that they can access anytime that they need. So each letter has a unique reference number and letter ID code on those letters. If they go onto the online portal and plug those numbers in, 2 numbers in successfully, then it pulls up the same information that appears on the letters that we sent through the mail. So the reason why they're being contacted, who's contacting them, right? And then the option to confirm or update their information. So those letters are sent out in 2-week increments for up to 6 weeks, unless the participants respond, and then in which case the outbound communication stops with those participants. And then we send you your weekly report with the updated address. And then we also update the portal so you can easily see the current address information if you're looking up one-off participants. If the participant does not respond to the letters within those 6 weeks period, then we also have our call center that makes outbound phone calls to those participants. We also identify social media links, and we find that between the first 3 and 6 months of using CertiCensus, on average, 97% of our clients' population will have a confirmed address on file. So really great results that we're seeing across the board with all our clients that are utilizing it. The last aspect of CertiCensus, like I mentioned before, is required mailing. So it comes with 1 required mailing sent each year. Most of the time that looks like an annual funding notice for our clients, but it doesn't have to be. It just has to be a notification that's generally the same for every participant that it's being sent to. At the beginning of your service, the date for your required mailing will be communicated to us, and then we'll reach out to you about a month ahead of that mailing date to ensure that we have all the required documentation needed to send out that mailing. The best part about this is that those required mailings, the return address is back to Berwyn. So we would manage all the returned mail for you. So you don't have to worry about return letters sitting on your desk. What do I do next with it? How do I find the address? We monitor all that, we track it, we document it. So like again, when we talk about running reports for audit purposes, it's very detailed and shows all of this data. If we do receive any returned mail back from a required mailing, those participants get kicked back over to that enhanced locate process, so that by the time next year rolls around, if we have another required mailing or there's another notice that you need to send out, that we can quickly get that address updated and we can ensure that information is getting sent out to the right address to the right participant. All right, and so I went over a lot of these in detail, but here you're just kind of seeing the overall package of census, making sure that, again, you're getting complete death audit on a weekly basis. We're constantly maintaining that address information, being able to have relative information at your fingertips in case, 1, it's missing from your records, or 2, some of that relative information paperwork was filled out 10, 20 years ago. Maybe that address information for that relative is no longer valid. So being able to confirm that information, get updated information if needed, and then making sure, of course, that we have confirmed addresses by the participants themselves in case they ever moved or anything. You're not just updating information based off a commercial data source or something you find online. Really, we want to ensure if any addresses that are changing, we want to make sure that we're confirming those with the participants before we make any changes or communicate any updates to you. And again, so we would like to throw up this slide is just as referring to, there's always changes that are going on, new guidance rules. We really position our products in a place where we try to make, hit as many of these recommended and this guidance that's released So when we were thinking about census and how we locate missing participants, if you've ever looked through those guidances, you'll see a lot of recommendations. It's not as easy as looking through it as just saying, oh, you do steps 1, 2, and 3. If you ever get an audit, you're good. It's really kind of challenging to going through each one of those recommendations and seeing what you can do. Census really hits on all of those, and you can feel really confident if you're ever in an audit situation that Census really covers your basis. Like I mentioned before, you have very detailed reporting that can be pulled at any given time that shows all your efforts and everything that we've done to attempts to maintain your population. So we're very transparent with those reports, so you have all the data that you need. All right, I'm going to take it back over to Jeff. That's going to talk about the why behind this partnership.
Yeah, thanks, Lindsay. That was great information. And as you were going through it, I was just sitting here thinking about, you know, for 20 years, as I've gone into plan administrative offices, TPA offices to talk about the technology stack, just one of the most recurring themes that we hear and challenges from administrators is maintaining member information and member addresses, right? So that 33% really rang true for me. But you know, at Bridgeway, as the providers of an enterprise class benefits administration system, right? We know that the accuracy of the processing of these benefits is of the utmost importance. Whether or not it's, you know, processing the contributions coming in from employers, determining whether it's health eligibility or pension eligibility, calculating the benefits, you know, very specifically to the plan documents, and ensuring that, you know, month after month that pension payroll process is sent out there and is of the utmost importance. So, but with that being said, we are also that source of truth as it relates to data. So at Bridgeway, you know, as we continue to invest in our platforms, three things that really we hold true to as we look at how to deploy those R&D dollars are ensuring that our solutions are secure. Okay, obviously we're talking about very sensitive PHI and PII data, so we want to be compliant with all the regulatory aspects as well as protecting that participant data. We want it to be sustainable. You know, many of our clients have been using our platforms for decades, and we want to ensure that integrations that we have with the Berwyn Group and other partners are sustainable for years to come, because we know in technology the only constant is change. And lastly, we know that we can deliver the highest quality services and solutions if we are very systematic about how we deliver these solutions. So as we work with the Berwyn Group on this partnership, and John, who's here on the call from our solution engineering group, our product management group, it was really important to us that we make sure that this partnership and this technology interface solution, it really meets those three criteria, right? That it's secure, that it's sustainable, and that, you know, we are doing it, and it's a very repeatable process for our customers. So we, you know, I think the Berwyn Group, along with Bridgeway, hold delivering value to our clients as like our number one, number two, and number three goal. And so with that, we're just very excited about the partnership, and we are confident in the value that the extended value, I should say, that the Berwyn Group brings to our clients. As we talk about sort of how can we deliver this information to both existing as well as new clients, some of the things that really jump to mind is the streamlined operation. So John and the team spent a lot of time and energy, you know, ensuring that we have a very robust, very streamlined operational process with the Berwyn Group on how we're exchanging this data on the frequency that Lindsay talked about earlier. And we want to make sure that we're doing that with a commitment to quality and security, as I mentioned. I want to also just be very clear that as when Bridgeway clients are engaging with the Berwyn Group, there's really no cost from Bridgeway perspective to deploy these interfaces. We felt like that was an important aspect to, again, delivering value to our clients, and why we've invested in the partnership as well. So with that, John, Lindsay, I'll turn it over to you for any other additions.
Thank you. And I'll just run through it real quick. If you are interested in taking part in this, just reach out to your customer success manager, your BA, to get the process started. It really should be, the first part of it at least, of getting the file over to Berwyn should be completely transparent to you, right? We're going to set that up for you, set up all the SFTP information, and then ultimately what would happen is once Berwyn provides a data file back with any kind of updated information, we can configure it to be what you want it to be, right? We can either make it automated, so it automatically takes place in your ISSI or basis system, or we can set it up where you can review the files and just make sure it's exactly 100% what you want to put into the system, which most likely will be, but not a lot of clients like to have that kind of control. So it's completely flexible in that regards. Yeah. So again, all you have to do if you want to take part in this is reach out to your CSM or your BA, or you can email Bridgeway at the Berwyn Group, berwyngroup.com, and we can get this process started.
I would just add, John, I do think it's important that as you begin conversations with your representatives at Berwyn Group, that you sync up with your Bridgeway CSM or account executive early in the process, so that we make sure that from a planning, scheduling process, that the two tracks are moving down the field at the same pace. Because obviously, if you're a new client to Berwyn, there's some work there that you need to do to select the right product for your needs and go through that process, and then work with us on the deployment of the integration solution.
Absolutely.
I think the last thing here in terms of next steps would be John and our product team, we're constantly doing voice of the customer outreach. So I would say or ask all of you here on the call today with us, as you think through the solution and you begin working with us on this interface, we want to hear from you. We want to get that feedback on how we can make improvements to the data sets, how we can make improvements to the integration, so that again you're getting the most value out of this partnership that we can. So I know that Jack mentioned earlier the chat. Feel free to put in some questions here, or reach out to your CSM, AE, or Berwyn contact person, and we'll ensure that we get you those client-specific answers as well. But again, I view this as kind of a V1 or V2 deployment of the integration, and so we're looking for that client feedback as we continue to evolve the solution itself.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff, for that. That's a great point on all that, and make sure to stay tuned for updates too. Our most popular communication channel is email. So if you're not subscribed to our email lists, you can find both of those on the Bridgeway and the Berwyn website here. And yeah, once again, in that post-webinar survey here today, there will be an opportunity to opt into a user group where you can share feedback on integration and what you'd like to see in the future. So really excited to hear what you all have to say about that. But we'll jump into the Q&A portion if we're ready for that. Thank you, Lindsay, John, and Jeff, for all that great information about what's happening here. And so we covered this a little bit, but I think this is important just to reiterate because this question came up quite a bit. And it's just the impact on current clients. And John, I'll kick this over to you. And how does this partnership between Berwyn and Bridgeway affect existing clients of both companies, including changes to processes and relationships?
Well, that's the great thing, right? Because we kind of streamline this process, right? Because some of the feedback that we've gotten over the years is that, okay, you make a request, but it might take a little while to implement, right? So the fact that we're streamlining this process, making sure we have everything set up as much as we can, with minor tweaks once we do have to go live with this, it gets it up and running that much faster, right? So that's great for everybody across the board.
I would also add, I know that many of the existing Berwyn clients that are on a Bridgeway platform are leveraging the CertiDeath service. So as a shameless plug, on behalf of our partner, I would encourage you to look at the CertiCensus solution as just again delivering extended value, especially around those addresses. I mean, the death certification I know it provides dramatic savings as it relates to stopping those pension checks going out the door. But I got really very excited about the work that they do on the communication with the participant, on the address verification. Many of the Bridgeway clients on both of our platforms are not just administering pension benefits, but you're administering health and welfare benefits, annuity benefits, and ancillary benefits, that have been collectively bargained on behalf of your union. So that can also mean, long-term care, AD&D, vacation. There's lots of additional benefits that we administer off the platform, and keeping those addresses clean and up to date and verified, I think has just tremendous value throughout the organization. So if you're currently working with the Berwyn Group and you have a current deployment, I would certainly think about this as an opportunity to look for opportunities to streamline it as well as extend the value.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that, Jeff. Much appreciated on that. And Lindsay, anything to add there for Berwyn clients that maybe aren't working with Bridgeway yet, and what that looks like?
Oh, Lindsay, you went mute on us, or at least on my end.
Oh, here we go. Sorry about that. Jack, so you said current Bridgeway clients that are not utilizing our services yet?
Or current Berwyn clients that may or may not be using Bridgeway. Just kind of speaking to, this doesn't really change anything for them currently, but an opportunity to look at Bridgeway as well.
Yeah, I would definitely say, reach out. Bridgeway offers lots of great services as far as housing data. Jeff and John, you can certainly elaborate more on that, and I think we talked about that in the beginning. But yeah, certainly if there's union clients out there that need to consolidate data, Bridgeway was a great source, and the reason why we also partnered, right? Partnership goes both ways.
Yeah, thanks, Lindsay. I would say, as we work with new clients at Bridgeway, we go through a number of discovery and discussions with clients first to ensure that you're looking at the right platform. The fact that we do have two Ben admin platforms, but if you're not working with us today, I would say 95% of the new organizations that come to Bridgeway are coming from legacy, homegrown, in many cases AS400 platforms that have just reached their point of obsolescence. So we have a great deal of experience in the data conversion and modernization and digitization of those offices. And we'd be happy to have John or someone else from our solution engineering team spend some time chatting with you about your unique situation and whether or not a Bridgeway solution could help. So
perfect. Yeah, Lindsay, another question coming your way. Let's talk a little bit about scope and compatibility. We talk a lot about pension plans and whatnot, but do these services, do they accommodate non-ERISA DB and DC plans? What is the scope here of what these solutions are appropriate for?
Yeah, I think Jeff hit it on the nail. He really talked about all the different areas in which these services can really benefit you. It's not just pension plans, right? Not just DC plans, but their health and welfare plans. They hit all of the board. So really where there's benefits due to your participants, where it's important to understand when they pass away, where they're living, so you can stay in regular communication with these participants, is really important, right? So these services really provide a lot of value. They're very intricate services. They're a lot of different steps and a lot of things that are going behind the scenes that make it really easy for you just to manage your plan and work at more proactive outreach and communication with your participants, right? You're not doing all the back-ended research that takes a long time, that gets you bogged down as far as, you know, sending out letters, having them get back. What do I do next? Finding out somebody's deceased. I don't have a relative on file or beneficiary on file. Where do I go? We really try to provide a lot of those answers for you at the, you know, tips you're like available for you anytime. You can log in the portal, find all that data information, and really kind of move forward with the process of managing the pension plan effectively.
Perfect. Perfect. Great. So then, John, question coming to you. Operational changes. You know, just as far we spoke a little bit. You know, you guys have covered pretty well how streamlined this this integration is. But let's talk about file upload. So, is there going to need to be a dramatic change to file formatting or anything like that with this integration?
No, and if there would be a change, again, it should be transparent to the customer, right? So that's how we have it set up, so that again, just to get the process started, reaching out to Bridgeway and or Berwyn to get the process started with the CSM and the VA and your Berwyn counterpart. Once that gets started, we can take it from there, and then whoever actually starts working on the actual transition, you know, we'll reach out to the customer and say, hey, you know, how much do you want us to configure this for you? Do you want it again to automatically upload back into your system, or do you want to take a look at that report first and then you can manually do it? We can do either way. So yeah, so the initial transition plan, you know, should be fairly simple and transparent. And then from there, we can just take it from there.
Yeah. I'd say just add one thing, and the benefit is just historically working with clients that we already have on contracts that also use Bridgeway services. We kind of talked about in the beginning of getting that initial file over could sometimes take a little bit of time. We are telling them how we need to receive the data. That client's then communicating with Bridgeway and how can you put the data in the format that they need. And it was kind of like this round robin circle that we went around. With this relationship, it really minimizes that for the client. We were really trying to think about how do we make it easier for the client to do work with both of us, right? And so it really got Berwyn and Bridgeway communicating together. We're working currently on exactly what those formats look like. So when you're ready to start a service, we already know what's needed on the back end. And right, there is no putting the client in the middle and saying, hey, this is what we need, you go figure it out with somebody else type of thing. It really eliminates that. So it should make a much smoother process in getting started.
Great. And just touching on this one last time here, this is the last of our pre-registration questions here. You know, what is the cost for something like this? We touched on there not being an additional cost, but how does this partnership provide financial operational benefit, such as preventing overpaid pension benefits or offering more frequent reporting options? And I'll toss that one to the group here because I think there's a lot there.
Yeah, I mean, on the Bridgeway side, you know, and our partner ecosystem that we've really invested in, so there is no cost to implement the new interface with Berwyn. So that should be pretty easy. But I would say, you know, on the Berwyn side, obviously their value and the ROI and cost savings comes out of that service, Lindsay. Now I'm sure you guys will work with individual clients on determining sort of what those opportunities look like.
Absolutely. So the best thing to do if you really wanted more detailed pricing of a new plan is to reach out with the Bridgeway at berwyngroup.com. You can certainly answer any questions. We'll have a sales rep contact you. There's a lot of factors that kind of go into pricing as far as how many participants have, what's your plan look like, type of a thing. And then we can kind of determine what that pricing looks like for you. And we really work with our clients to really add as much value as we possibly can with these services. And so, yeah, reach out with Bridgeway at berwyngroup.com and we'll reach out to you directly to talk about pricing.
Thank you so much to our panel here today, Lindsay, John, Jeff. Great information. Really appreciate you guys sharing all that with us. And thanks to everyone that joined us here today and taking time out of your busy schedules. And we're really looking forward to this partnership and the value that we can bring to all your organizations through it.